You're tuned into the VSX Digital Sports Network.
Welcome to the Webb Report for April the 1st. Today is an amazing day as it is Major League Baseball opening day. So two things in play here for me. Number one, it's exciting that Major League Baseball is starting again, and what a season we're in store for this year. This is a lot of excitement about all the young players and the stars that are in the game. But this also is a time for me where it starts the 7-month, every day, all day baseball grind. So every day I sit here and put these games together and analyze every one of them, look at all the pictures, do all the stats, do everything, and I love it. But at the same time, I have no personal life. So one thing to look forward to is great baseball. Another thing to look forward to is great baseball. So there you go. So we're going to break this down into a couple things today. We're going to start off with what I call marquee games. These are not necessarily games that I bet on, but these are some of the fun games that need to have analysis for the day. And then we're going to go into the big dogs of the day, and then we're going to do my plays that I made wagers on. Now, in this particular case today, we have two plays that are two games that are in the marquee games that I did wager on. And the first one that we're going to talk about today is the Toronto Blue Jays at the New York Yankees. This game goes at 1:05 Eastern Time. This is Hyun-Jin Ryu and Garrett Cole. The line on this game is the New York Yankees minus 176, and the total is 7.5. This game breaks down, and you're going to hear a little bit about how I do games. I'm going to talk about what I call game flow, and it starts with something called game score, and we're going to go back to last season, and we're going to look at the last month of games that they pitched. And we're going to carry those into the first game of the season for this year. And in this case, Hyun-Jin Ryu's game score was a 60 and Garrett Cole's a 61. Both of those are very ace-like numbers. They're very good numbers. An average score on game score is 50. So these guys pitched very well. So there is no edge. There is no edge there when it comes to the game score part of it. When you look at the next part, it's what I call the metrics. We want to look at the Sierra numbers. Those are predictive numbers that measure how a guy pitches in terms of not ERA, but it looks like an ERA. Hyun-Jin Ryu is 3.81 and Garrett Cole 3.36. So we have a little bit of an edge to Garrett Cole, but nothing major. So we're not really calling that a significant thing to bet on. So far we are looking at a game flow of two really good pitchers that are going to end up facing two really good offenses. So as we move forward, we're going to talk about how I played this game and why I played the game, and that's coming up here next. The next one section is called Balls in Play. As a starting pitcher, there's a program called 3 True Outcomes. That's strikeouts, walks, and home runs. And a pitcher can be very dominant because he controls those things. And in this particular case, Garrett Cole wins those battles. He's got a 32% strikeout rate, for example, and Hyun-Jin Ryu's 25%. He's got a swing and miss rate of 16.1%. So that means balls that were thrown for strikes, 16% of the time the hitter swings and misses. And for Hyun-Jin Ryu, it's 11.5, which is average, but 16 is one of the higher numbers you're going to see. And then there's a new one called CSW. CSW is called strikes and whiffs. So these are pitches that were called strikes and swings and misses for the batters. And you want to be over 30%. That's the number you want to be at. And Garrett Cole is at 30.9. Hyun-Jin Ryu is at 25.6. So what that means is that Hyun-Jin Ryu is not going to control the game near as much as Garrett Cole will. He's going to need to have balls hit towards fielders. And for him to be successful, he's going to need his fielders to play good defense. And that puts an advantage to the New York Yankees. Now, all that being said, that doesn't mean that I want to go out and put 176 on the New York Yankees, because this is still a pretty good pitching battle. What I'm trying to do here is, and I don't look at this that often, this is kind of a new one for me, but this season in spring training, even though those games didn't mean anything, they played in pods. So they didn't travel all over the state of Florida, in this case with the Toronto Blue Jays and the New York Yankees. They stayed in and only played 4 teams. And the Toronto Blue Jays and the New York Yankees played each other. So they played a lot of games that didn't count, but that means they've seen each other. So they've seen Garrett Cole this year. They've seen Hyun-Jin Ryu this year, both hitters, both lineups. That's an advantage to the hitters. Anytime a hitter gets a chance to see a pitcher and then go back and see that pitcher again, that hitter typically is going to have a better opportunity to make good contact and get hits. So I'm going to play this game in a sense of over the 7.5. I know it's cold. The weather forecast there is 47 degrees. The wind is blowing sort of crosswind, almost blowing out, though, to right field. That's a short porch out there. And I think they're going to see some scoring over the 7.5, and especially once it gets to the bullpens. So the New York Yankees bullpen is a little bit rattled right now because their closer is suspended for 2 games. And then they had Zach Britton, who had an injury, so he's not going to be there. So their 2 main guys in the bullpen that tie down these games won't be there. And for the Blue Jays, they don't have the greatest bullpen to begin with. So you can see some scoring in the bullpens. It's the first game of the season, so I don't suspect these guys are going to go more than 6 innings. They might go 7 at the most. So you're going to have a bullpen kind of effect on this game. But both teams have great offenses, and I think the offenses are going to carry this. So not only is this a marquee game, but this is a Webby selection. So I'm going to be taking this game, and I've already played it. So game number 1 that we're going to talk about in terms of recapping my selections is going to be the New York Yankees and the Toronto Blue Jays over 7.5. The line I paid was minus 116. So you're going to see me play a lot of that. I don't play usually over 145 to 150 unless there's a significant reason to do that. And I also don't play super big dogs. So I do have a section that we're going to talk about with dogs, but we'll get to that one in a minute. So that's marquee game number 1. Marquee game number 2 is the Minnesota Twins at the Milwaukee Brewers. This is 2 teams that should be in positions and battling for their supremacy of their own divisions, one in the American League Central and the other in the National League Central. This is going to be Kenta Maeda against Brandon Woodruff. The line on this game is Milwaukee is minus 105 right now. And that's a pick'em game. So it fits the bill to be a marquee game. Kenta Maeda is one of the best pitchers in baseball last year. Brandon Woodruff can dominate from the mound. If you haven't really seen him pitch, he's a solid ace. Going with the game flow format again, game score 66 for Maeda and 60 for Woodruff. Again, both pitchers over the 60 number. Both pitchers will be very good in the game. Coming to the metrics, Maeda 2.55 and Woodruff 2.99. So these are both below 3 numbers, but both below 3. And that means that they're very, very good, very hard to score runs off of. When it comes to dominating from the mound, Strikeout rate is 35% for both of them. Both of them have very low walk rates. So balls in play are over 30%, like what we're looking for. It's actually 34.2 for Maeda and 31.9 for Woodruff. So these are going to be hard to score type game, and both of these guys can pitch. So when it comes down to trying to figure out how do we bet this game, the problem comes into is that we don't have any value here. My line was Milwaukee minus 110. The actual line is Milwaukee minus 105, 108, 107, wherever you find your book. So it's really right on that number. And when you look at the data, there's no data to support any kind of play on it. The total in this game is 8, and it's shaded to the under at minus 120. So let's talk about that for a minute, because we did play the Yankee game, and we played that game over 7.5. In an American League game, average score is 9 runs. And in a National League, it's 8 runs. So if you're looking at like the Yankee game, for example, it's at 7.5. Well, that's because you have 2 good pitchers and it's cold weather. But I'm going to play the game over for the reasons I already told you. This particular game is at 8. And this would be a fair number. And if you really wanted to play it one way or the other, the recommendation that I would have would be under the 8. But the 8 is minus 120, and I don't want to pay anything extra to play the under. But the reason I would play it under is because 2 things. One, you have 2 great starting pitchers, and both of these teams have good bullpens. So that tends for me to believe that this is going to be an under type game. But at the same time that it's an under kind of game, you don't have a weather concern because they're going to be playing in Milwaukee and they have a dome. So when you're looking at that, there is no weather that's going to contradict any of the balls flying or anywhere it's going to go, anything like that. So this is a game where it's not enough value for me to make a play. But if I was going to lean one direction or another, I would lean with the under on the 8. The next game is the Atlanta Braves at the Philadelphia Phillies, another marquee matchup. This is going to be Max Fried, and this is going to be Aaron Nola. Again, going through the game flow, kind of getting an idea of how this is going to go. We're going to build on the game flow as we get more data to support it. But starting out, we're going to start with Max Fried. He's a game score 60, and Aaron Nola's a game score 59. So again, no value there. But here's where things change. The metrics, the Sierra numbers show that even though Fried had a game score 60, his Sierra numbers are 5.52. What that means is that he didn't pitch that well, even though he scored pretty well in his game score. He didn't have very many strikeouts, a 16.9% strikeout rate, and his walk rate's 9.9. So that means balls are in play against him at 25%. Remember, that's where we want it to be 30. So that puts an edge to the Philadelphia Phillies, where Nola is at 31% strikeout rate, and his balls in play rate is 31%. So you should see the Phillies hit the ball better against Fried than you see the Braves hit the ball better against Nola. So that means that the Phillies have an edge in this game, but the line in this game is also right now at pretty much even, because you get the Phillies minus 110. The Phillies minus 110, though, is a little different than what it started at. It started at Atlanta minus 107. So there's been some action towards the Philly side, and I can see why. But again, I don't think there's enough value here to play this game to be betting on Nola. But if I was going to do it, that's the side I would take. And then the last marquee game of the day that we're going to talk about, and one that I did wager on, is the New York Mets at the Washington Nationals. And there's been a little bit of line movement here that we can talk about. And this is going to be Jacob deGrom, and this is going to be against Max Scherzer. And Jacob deGrom is just a phenomenal pitcher. And again, when you start to look at his game score, it's a 64, and for Scherzer, it's a 54. So those are a huge difference. 54 is a slightly above average number, and 64 is one of the numbers that you want. You want to be in the 60s if you're betting on a pitcher, or have that discrepancy anyway. And he's a dominant pitcher. His strikeout rate is 33%. His walk rate was a little bit higher than I thought it was. Well, I'm sorry, I'm looking at the wrong one. His strikeout rate's 40%. His walk rate's 8%. And he's got a CSW, again, that's called strikes and whiffs, swings and misses, at 34.8%. And that's the highest on the board for the day. And Max Scherzer's only at 28. So balls are going to get put in play against Max. His strikeout rate's down 27%. That's still a good number. It's a little bit above average. But at the same time, it's not Max Scherzer type numbers. The Sierra impact is even better. It's 2.70 for DeGrom, and it's 3.99 for Scherzer. So that's a difference of it's 1 run, almost 1.5 runs, just in the Sierra impact. Plus, you have a better bullpen with the Mets. So when you get it to a point where you think DeGrom's going to go 7 innings and maybe Scherzer can go 6 or 5, and then they put in the bullpen, you have a better edge still to the Mets. Now, this game opened at minus 136 for the Mets. It's up to the Mets minus 145. So there's action on the game, and that's twofold reasons. One is DeGrom, but the other one is it was just announced not too long ago that the Washington Nationals are going to have 5 players out of this game. They are going to be COVID-related issues. We don't know who the 5 players are, but theoretically they could be starters. They may not be starters. They could be bullpen guys. They could be anybody. But they're going to have to shuffle their roster around for a couple of weeks to get these things cleared up. So I can see why the number has changed a little bit. But this number at 145 is good up to 150. I wouldn't be betting this higher than 150. My line on the number was 164. But you lose your value when you get to 150. So if you're going to play this game, play it up to 150. Don't play it higher than that, because then you're looking at a number that doesn't make that much sense. So our 4 marquee games was the Toronto Blue Jays, the New York Yankees game, the Minnesota Twins at Milwaukee, the Atlanta Phillies game, and then you have the New York Mets and the Nationals game. In terms of big dog plays today, the only one that caught my interest that I even had any kind of inkling for was the Texas Rangers. They play at the Kansas City Royals. This is going to be Gibson against Keller. Keller's a much better pitcher than Gibson is in terms of data statistics, but in terms of game score and other things, Gibson actually kind of holds his own. The reality here is that my line is much different. I have Kansas City at minus 115, and the market line is Kansas City minus 165. So that puts a lot of value on the Texas Rangers as an underdog here. And the reason that that's the case is because Gibson, his projected WAR number is higher than the projected WAR number for Keller. And when I do my lines, they're going to be based off of what these pitchers are going to be at the end of the season. And it looks to me like the metrics are going to show that Gibson is going to be somebody who's going to earn better numbers than what Keller will over the course of the season. So that puts it into perspective in terms of giving value to Texas. I just don't think I would pull the trigger here unless I was just kind of making a play for fun. One of the things that I will certainly make sure that you know is these are the games I personally wagered on. If I didn't wager on it, I don't recommend it. If I have a lean one way or another, that means that it got close to making a wager on, but I didn't wager it myself. Sometimes I'm pretty conservative when it comes to some of that stuff. So one of the things that you'll see here is that the line is minus 165. So you can take off and make that plus 140 for the Rangers, and plus 140 if you can get a win out of that, that would be great. One of the suggestions, though, I would make is if you play this game and you want to play this as a big dog, I would play the big dog in the first 5 innings, not the full game. The reason is Texas has one of the worst bullpens in all of baseball, and I wouldn't put that getting them to cover, they could blow that for you at any time after Gibson leaves the game. So I would tell you have a better chance in the first 5 innings. You're not going to get quite as good a value, but at the same time, it's a better wager and a better way to make the play. So let's talk about what I did wager on. I kind of hit all kinds of things. The first thing we talked about, and the first thing that I did bet on was that New York Yankees game, and that was that over 7.5. I paid in that game. I paid minus 116 to play it. I feel pretty comfortable with the idea that game will go over the 7.5. Now the second game that I played, I actually played the same game twice. I just played it different ways. This is the Arizona Diamondbacks at the San Diego Padres. This game goes at 4:10 Eastern Standard Time. I played this on the run line. I played it as a full game on the run line. That's minus 1.5. So the Padres have to win by 2. And I played it on the first 5, minus only a half a run. Now, very rarely do I play a home team on the run line for the full game, because if they're winning the game, they only get to bat 8 times. So I'm real conservative when it comes to that. And normally I play just the first 5 innings, and they always get to bat in the 5th inning. So let's talk about this game, and then I'll tell you why I played them the way I did. First of all, you have Madison Bumgarner, who's pitching for Arizona, and he's facing Yu Darvish. And game score wise, again, going with the game flow, Madison Bumgarner was a game score 40 last season, and Darvish is a game score 67. Now remember, Darvish was second to Trevor Bauer for the Cy Young Award, so he pitched extremely well, and Madison Bumgarner got hit all over the place. And it shows up not only in his game score, and you got a huge advantage there, but you also have it in the metrics too. So the SIERA number's 313 for Darvish, 499 for Madison Bumgarner. So that gives you a 1 3/4 advantage there for the San Diego Padres in terms of runs, just in the starting pitcher and just in the SIERA metric. So then you kind of look at it from a perspective of balls in play, and let's look at strikeouts. So Bumgarner, 15.9% strikeout rate. 15.9% strikeout rate is near the total worst starting pitcher going today on opening day for any Major League Baseball team in strikeouts. So that means balls are going to be put in play, and you can see that in the CSW score. And the CSW score is 17.3%. And remember, that's the number we want to be over 30. And that's where Darvish comes into play. His strikeout rate's 31%. His walk rate's only 5. So he's not putting guys on base, and he's striking guys out. He's controlling the game from the mound. And his CSW percentage in this particular case is 32.6. So again, we have a dominant pitcher, not just a good pitcher. And they're facing a team in Arizona that struggles to score runs. This is a team that doesn't score many runs. And they're going to be playing San Diego, who's a team that's going to score a lot of runs. So we're getting a value here in terms of the run line that makes sense, because you have a dominant pitcher for San Diego, a pitcher that allows contact for Arizona, and then you have a team that's really good on offense in San Diego and a team in Arizona that struggles to score runs. So it all kind of fits here. And what I played was the first 5 innings for Arizona minus a half a run, and that's at minus 135. And then I paid for minus 1.5 on the run line for the entire game, minus 115. So we're on San Diego twice in this particular matchup. Then the next game that I played is, again, a 4:10 start. This is St. Louis at Cincinnati. I played the Cincinnati Reds at minus 115. This is Luis Castillo against Jack Flaherty for St. Louis. The issue here is that Jack Flaherty's game score was a 51. That's an average pitcher. And Luis Castillo was a 59. So that puts him in ace-like numbers. So as you look at it from the perspective of pitching matchups. You got a better matchup now for Cincinnati, and when you look at the metrics, it's 309 for Castillo for Sierra, 399 for Flaherty. So you got a 1-run advantage to Cincinnati here. Yeah, and then when you look at the CSW numbers, they're relatively the same, but the difference comes into the batting average and the whip rate. So the whip rate we haven't talked about, but that's walks and hits divided by innings pitched. So that really tells you how many guys get on base. For Flaherty, it's 1.46 guys per inning, and for Castillo, it's 0.98. So he doesn't even allow one guy to get on base, and Flaherty's got 1.5. So you want to look at opportunities to score. Cincinnati should have more of them. And in this particular case, the line is minus 115. And my line in value on that game was Cincinnati minus 119. So if it fits, I have a slight edge to Cincinnati. But I like the matchup here where I think that, again, you're going to have this division. Both teams struggle to score. It's going to be cold, so I want to take the better pitcher with a team that is going to at least make some contact. And with Flaherty struggling to throw strikes, I want the opportunities, and I think that that's where they come in. So I like Cincinnati in this game. And then the last game, again, is going to be the New York Mets. We talked about that game. It's DeGrom minus 145. So I have 5 plays on the day, and just to recap those 5 plays, it's the Toronto Blue Jays at the New York Yankees over 7.5. I'm playing the Arizona-San Diego game 2 times. It's the San Diego Padres in the first 5 innings, minus 0.5 run. I'm also playing San Diego in the run line, minus 1.5 runs for the entire game. I'm playing the Cincinnati Reds and Luis Castillo. And I'm playing the New York Mets and Jacob deGrom at minus 145. Now, as I go forward and we start with tomorrow's shows, we'll have recaps of what happened in the night before and talk about that a little bit. And then we'll get into the day's games as we go forward. So good luck to everybody. I hope everybody enjoys the games. And for whoever you wager on today, let's make it successful, and let's have a great day and enjoy opening day for Major League Baseball.